First contact in the void. The silence of deep space had a way of making even routine maintenance feel profound. Lieutenant Raven Walsh checked her oxygen levels for the third time in 10 minutes, an old habit from her academy days that she'd never quite shaken. The readout glowed a steady green against the backdrop of Outpost 7's stark metal walls. Auxiliary power systems at 98% control, she reported, her voice echoing slightly in her helmet. Moving on to the quantum relay array. Copy that, Lieutenant, came the response from her supervisor, Commander Harrison. Keep an eye on those power fluctuations we detected earlier. Raven made her way through the cramped maintenance shaft, her magnetic boots clicking softly against the metal flooring. Outpost 7 sat at the edge of known space, a lonely sentinel monitoring the vast emptiness beyond humanity's frontier. Most engineers considered an assignment here a punishment, but Raven found peace in the solitude. The quantum relay array occupied its own section of the station, a forest of delicate equipment that allowed faster-than-light communication across the galaxy. As she approached, her handheld scanner picked up an unusual energy signature. She frowned, double-checking the readings. Control, I'm detecting something odd near the relay array. It's not matching any known patterns in our database. Static crackled across the comm channel before Harrison's voice returned. Can you be more specific, Lieutenant? It's pulsing, almost like a heartbeat. Raven adjusted her scanner settings, and it's not coming from our equipment. The signal seems to be originating from somewhere below the station. She moved closer to the observation window, looking down at the small moon the station orbited. Its cratered surface appeared unremarkable, yet her scanner insisted something was there. Control, requesting permission to investigate. These readings are unlike anything I've seen before. There was a long pause before Harrison responded. Granted, but maintain constant communication. First sign of trouble, you pull back immediately. Raven gathered her tools and made her way to the station's small shuttle bay. Within minutes, she was piloting a maintenance pod toward the moon's surface, following the mysterious signal. As she descended, the pulsing grew stronger, more distinct. The signal led her to a narrow ravine, barely visible from orbit. Her pod's lights revealed something that shouldn't have been there. A seamless metal door set into the rock face, covered in symbols unlike any human writing. Control, are you seeing this? She transmitted the video feed. Affirmative, Lieutenant. Proceed with extreme caution. The door wasn't locked. In fact, it slid open at her approach, revealing a corridor that stretched deep into the moon's surface. The architecture was clearly artificial, yet it predated any human presence in this sector by centuries, if not millennia. As she ventured deeper, the corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with machinery that hummed with barely contained power. But it was the sound that caught her attention. A faint voice, calling out in perfectly clear English. Please, is someone there? I need help. Raven froze, her heart pounding. The voice seemed to come from the center of the chamber, where a column of shimmering energy rose from floor to ceiling. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she saw a figure suspended within the energy field. Tall, slender, with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors in the glow of the ancient machinery. I'm Lieutenant Raven Walsh, she responded, approaching carefully. Are you hurt? My name is Theron, the figure replied, its voice carrying a musical quality despite its obvious distress. I was a researcher studying these ruins. The machinery activated unexpectedly. I've been trapped here for what feels like days. Raven studied the energy field. It pulsed with the same rhythm she detected from the station, but now she could see it wasn't just containing Theron, it was drawing energy from them, feeding it into the ancient systems. Can you tell me anything about this technology? She asked, pulling out her diagnostic tools. It's far older than my civilization, Theron explained. We believed it was created by a species that vanished millions of years ago. The machinery appears to be some kind of particle containment system, but its true purpose remains a mystery. Raven began scanning the nearby control panels, her mind racing. The symbols were alien, but the underlying principles of engineering had a universal logic to them. She could feel Theron watching her intently. "Why are you helping me?" they asked suddenly. "You don't know me. I'm not even of your species." Raven looked up, meeting Theron's luminescent eyes. "Because you need help," she said simply. "Where I come from, that's enough of a reason." She turned back to her work, but not before catching the look of surprise that crossed Theron's alien features. As she studied the machinery, a pattern began to emerge in the symbols. Not their meaning, but their relationship to the energy fluctuations. "I think I understand part of this," she said after several minutes. "The field is adaptive. It's using your own energy signature to maintain itself. That's why it won't simply release you. It's created a feedback loop." "Yes," Theron confirmed weakly. "And it's growing stronger. I can feel it drawing more energy from me with each cycle. I don't know how much longer I can last." Raven's jaw set with determination. "Then we'll have to break the cycle. But I'll need your help. Together, we might be able to decode enough of these controls to disrupt the field without causing a catastrophic failure." She established a link between her diagnostic tools and the alien control panels, creating a basic interface that could at least monitor the energy patterns. As she worked, Theron began explaining what they knew about the symbols and their arrangements. Hours passed as they collaborated, human and alien working together to unravel the mysteries of an even more ancient civilization. With each small breakthrough, Raven felt her respect for Theron growing. Despite their weakening condition, their mind remained sharp, their insights crucial. As they worked, they talked. Theron spoke of their homeworld, of a civilization dedicated to understanding the universe's mysteries. Raven shared stories of Earth, of humanity's relentless drive to explore the unknown. Despite their differences, they found common ground in their shared curiosity about the cosmos. But time was running out. Theron's voice grew weaker, their form becoming more transparent as the machine continued its relentless energy drain. Raven knew they had to act soon, even if their understanding of the technology remained incomplete. "I think I've found something," she announced, studying a particular sequence of symbols. "These patterns, they're not just controls, they're a key. The ancestors who built this place, they left a way to safely disable it." "But Theron," she hesitated, looking up at the alien's diminishing form. "It's risky. If I'm wrong about any part of this." "Do it," Theron interrupted, their voice barely a whisper now. "I trust you, Raven Walsh. You've shown me something I never expected to find out here in the void. Not just intelligence or skill, but compassion. Whatever happens, I am grateful for that." Raven nodded, her fingers hovering over the controls. She took a deep breath, then began the sequence they decoded together. The chamber hummed louder, the energy field fluctuating wildly. Warnings flashed across her diagnostic display as the ancient machinery struggled against their interference. The next few moments would determine not just Theron's fate, but perhaps the future of human-alien relations. As Raven prepared to execute the final command, she silently hoped they'd made the right choice. Trust among stars. The ancient chamber shuddered as Raven input the final sequence. Energy cascaded through the surrounding machinery in waves of blue-white light, building to a crescendo that made her diagnostic equipment scream in protest. For one terrifying moment, she feared she'd made a catastrophic mistake. Then, with a sound like distant thunder, the containment field collapsed. Theron fell forward, their crystalline form nearly transparent now. Raven rushed to catch them, surprised by how light they felt in her arms. The alien skin was cool to the touch, even through her suit's sensors, and seemed to pulse with its own fading light. "Stay with me," Raven urged, carefully lowering Theron to the floor. "The field's down, but we're not done yet." Theron's eyes flickered open, their usual brightness dimmed. "The machine. It's not finished," they whispered. "I can feel it, trying to re-establish the connection." Raven's scanner confirmed their fears. The ancient machinery was adapting, power building in its cores as it sought to reactivate the containment field. They had minutes, perhaps less, before it would attempt to recapture Theron. "Control," Raven called into her comm. "I need emergency evacuation. I have a critically weakened alien life form and an unstable energy situation." Only static answered. The chamber's energy fluctuations were interfering with communications. "Your people," Theron managed, their voice barely audible. "They won't understand. Many would see me as a threat. Then they'll have to deal with me first," Raven replied firmly. She began helping Theron toward the corridor. But the aliens' legs couldn't support their weight. Without hesitation, Raven lifted them in her arms, thankful for the enhanced strength of her maintenance suit. They had only made it halfway to the entrance when the chamber's lights pulsed red. The machine's hum changed pitch, becoming more urgent. Raven's scanner showed energy levels spiking dangerously. "It's initiating some kind of containment protocol," Theron explained, their scientific curiosity evident even in their weakened state. "The ancients built failsafes to prevent their technology from falling into the wrong hands." "Well, they didn't count on human stubbornness," Raven muttered. She set Theron down gently near the corridor entrance. "I need to get back to those controls. There has to be a way to shut this thing down permanently." Theron caught her arm, their touch sending a slight electric tingle through her suit. "The risk is too great. The failsafe sequence, it could destroy everything within the chamber." "Then we better make sure we get it right the first time." Raven managed a smile. "Talk me through what you know about their failsafe systems. Two minds are better than one, even if one of us is barely conscious." Despite their condition, Theron began explaining what they'd learned about the ancient technology during their research. Their people had spent years studying similar installations, though none as well preserved as this one. As they talked, Raven made her way back to the central controls, her mind racing to connect the pieces. "The symbols," she mused, studying the pulsing patterns. "They're not just a written language. The arrangements themselves are part of the code, like musical notes forming a harmony." Theron's eyes brightened slightly. "Yes, my people discovered similar patterns in other sites. The ancients believed in the mathematical harmony of the universe. Their technology responds to specific sequences, like a symphony." Raven's fingers flew over her diagnostic panel, mapping the energy fluctuations. "Then we need to find the right sequence to power it down. Not just shut it off, but make it understand that it's completed its purpose." Working together, they began piecing together the complex mathematical patterns hidden within the ancient symbols. Theron's knowledge of similar sites provided crucial context, while Raven's engineering background helped her understand the practical applications. As they worked, the chamber's energy levels continued to rise, the machinery preparing to reactivate its containment protocols. "There," Raven said suddenly, pointing to a recurring pattern. "These symbols appear at the start of every major sequence. They must be like a command prefix." "Yes," Theron agreed, their voice stronger as excitement overcame their exhaustion. "And look at the arrangement. The spacing between symbols matches the harmonic ratios we found in other installations." Time seemed to blur as they raced against the machine's failsafe countdown. Raven input sequences, as Theron called them out, each attempt getting them closer to understanding the ancient system's logic. The chamber's warnings grew more intense, the red lights pulsing faster as energy built up in the surrounding machinery. "One last sequence," Raven announced, her fingers hovering over the controls. "If we're right about the harmonic patterns, this should convince the system that its containment protocols are no longer needed." "And if we're wrong?" Theron asked softly. Raven met their gaze. "Then it's been an honor working with you, Theron. You've shown me that the universe is even more amazing than I imagined." She input the final sequence. The chamber's lights flared brilliantly, and for a moment the hum of machinery rose to a deafening pitch. Raven held her breath, watching as the energy readings spiked one last time. Then, slowly, beautifully, the ancient technology began powering down. The red warning lights faded, replaced by a soft, steady blue glow. The oppressive hum gentled into a quiet purr before falling silent entirely. "We did it," Raven breathed, hardly daring to believe it. "The containment protocols are offline. The whole system is entering dormancy." She turned to find Theron watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You could have left," they said quietly. "When the field first collapsed, you could have saved yourself and let the machine complete its protocols. Many would have." "That's not who I am," Raven replied simply. "And I think you knew that, or you wouldn't have trusted me with your life." A small smile played across Theron's luminescent features. "Perhaps that is why my people have never truly understood humans. You are capable of such remarkable things, not because of your technology or your intelligence, but because of your capacity to care about those different from you." Raven helped Theron to their feet, noting with relief that some of their strength seemed to be returning. "Come on," she said. "Let's get you out of here before this place changes its mind. I think we both have a lot to learn from each other." As they made their way back to the entrance, the ancient chamber seemed different somehow. What had felt alien and threatening now held a sense of quiet dignity, as if the machinery itself approved of their cooperation. Above them, Outpost 7 waited, and with it the challenge of explaining what had transpired here. But as Raven guided Theron toward her maintenance pod, she knew that something profound had changed. In helping each other survive, they had proven that the gaps between their species could be bridged by something as simple as compassion and trust. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter as they began their ascent, witnesses to a moment that might just change the course of both their civilizations. The ancient machine's challenge. The maintenance pod's ascent toward Outpost 7 was anything but smooth. Warning lights flashed across the control panel as the vessel struggled with its unusual passenger configuration. Raven's suit sensors indicated that Theron's presence was creating subtle electromagnetic disturbances in the pod systems. "Your technology," Theron observed weakly, their form still translucent, but slowly regaining substance. "It's sensitive to our bioelectrical field. I should have warned you." "Nothing I can't handle," Raven assured them, making manual adjustments to compensate. But as they approached the station, a new concern pressed on her mind. "Theron, I need to know, how will your presence affect the station's systems?" Before Theron could answer, Commander Harrison's voice crackled through the comm. "Lieutenant Walsh, our sensors are detecting severe anomalies in your pod. Report status immediately." Raven took a deep breath. "Control, I'm bringing aboard a survivor. Non-human origin. They need immediate medical attention, but their physiology may interact with our systems." A long silence followed. Raven could almost picture Harrison's face, struggling with protocols that never anticipated this scenario. "The auxiliary research bay," Theron suggested quietly. "It's shielding. It might contain my energy signature." "Control," Raven called again. "Request permission to dock at Research Bay 4. Its electromagnetic shielding should prevent any system interference." Another pause, then, "Granted, Lieutenant, but be advised, security teams will be present." As they approached the bay, Raven noticed Theron's form beginning to flicker more intensely. "Something's wrong," she said, checking her scanner. "Your energy readings are becoming erratic." "The machine," Theron managed, their voice strained. "Its effects, they're not completely gone. My core energy is still unstable." Raven's mind raced as she guided the pod into the docking sequence. They'd escaped the ancient chamber, but the real challenge was just beginning. Theron needed specialized care that the station's medical facilities weren't equipped to provide. The research bay's doors sealed behind them with a heavy clang. Through the pod's viewport, Raven could see security personnel taking positions, their expressions a mix of awe and apprehension as they caught their first glimpse of Theron. "Listen to me," Raven said urgently, turning to her alien companion. "Whatever happens next, let me do the talking. These people are trained to be cautious, but they're not unreasonable." "Your faith in your kind is admirable," Theron replied. attempting to stand but stumbling. I hope it's not misplaced. The pod's hatch opened to reveal Dr. Nikolai Volkov, the station's chief scientist, accompanied by a medical team and 4 armed security officers. His eyes widened as he took in Theron's crystalline form. Remarkable. He breathed scientific curiosity temporarily overwhelming caution. Lieutenant Walsh, you've certainly made this assignment more interesting. Doctor, Raven said firmly, supporting Theron as they exited the pod. They need help. The ancient machine we found was drawing energy directly from their cellular structure. The effects haven't fully dissipated. Volkov's expression sharpened with focus. Get them to the containment lab. We can monitor their energy signature there and hopefully stabilize it. As they moved toward the lab, Theron suddenly convulsed, their form becoming almost completely transparent. Energy crackled around them in brilliant arcs, causing nearby equipment to spark and shut down. It's accelerating, Theron gasped. The machine, it created a quantum entanglement. It's still trying to draw energy through the connection. Volkov's fingers flew across his tablet, taking readings. The entanglement is causing a cascade effect in their energy matrix. If we don't break the connection soon, they'll fade completely. Raven finished, her heart racing. Doctor, what about the quantum dampeners from the relay array? Could we modify them to disrupt the entanglement? Possibly, Volkov mused, but the calculations would need to be precise. Too strong, and we could permanently damage their energy structure. Too weak, and the connection remains. I can help, Theron offered, their voice barely audible now. My people, we understand quantum mechanics differently than humans. Together, another surge of energy coursed through them, stronger this time. Emergency lights flashed as systems throughout the bay fluctuated wildly. Commander, Raven called over the comm. We need those dampeners now. And I need every engineer you can spare who understands quantum mechanics. The next hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. While medical teams worked to stabilize Theron's physical form, Raven and Volkov led a team of engineers in modifying the quantum dampeners. Theron provided crucial insights between episodes of energy discharge, their scientific knowledge proving invaluable despite their weakening condition. The frequency modulation is key, Theron explained, watching as Raven adjusted the dampener settings. The entanglement, it resonates at specific harmonics, like the ancient machine's controls. Of course, Volkov exclaimed, understanding dawning on his face. We're not just trying to break the connection. We need to convince it to let go naturally. Like untying a knot rather than cutting it. Raven's fingers flew over the controls, implementing their combined insights. The modified dampeners hummed to life, creating a complex field of quantum interference patterns around Theron. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the energy discharges began to stabilize. Theron's form became more solid, the dangerous flickering subsiding. It's working, Volkov announced, studying his readings. The entanglement is weakening. Just a little more. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Control to Research Bay 4. Harrison's voice boomed. We're detecting a massive energy surge from the moon's surface. The ancient facility. It's powering up again. Raven rushed to a viewport, looking down at the moon below. Brilliant light pulsed from the ravine where they'd found Theron, growing stronger by the second. It's making one final attempt, Theron said grimly. The machine, it won't let go easily. You have to. Their voice failed as another surge of energy racked their form. Increase power to the dampeners. Raven ordered, her mind racing. If we can't break the connection now, we might not get another chance. The research bay filled with the high-pitched whine of overtaxed equipment as they pushed the dampeners to their limits. Sparks flew from overloading circuits, but Raven refused to back down. In that moment, watching Theron struggle against the ancient machine's grasp, she understood something profound about both their species. Whether human or alien, they shared a fundamental desire to help others. to reach across the void and make a difference. As if in response to this realization, the quantum dampeners reached a perfect harmony. The energy surges stabilized, and Theron's form solidified completely. Below, the light from the ancient facility flickered and died. Connection terminated, Volkov announced, his voice filled with wonder. They're free. Theron stood straighter, their crystalline skin glowing with its natural luminescence. They turned to Raven, their eyes bright with gratitude, and something more, respect. Your people, they said softly, you never stopped trying. Even when it seemed impossible, you kept fighting for me. That's what humans do, Raven replied with a small smile. We're stubborn that way. Around them, the station's systems returned to normal as engineers began assessing the damage. But something had changed fundamentally in that bay. Humans and alien working together had accomplished what neither could have done alone. The challenge wasn't over. There would be reports to file, diplomatic channels to establish, and countless questions to answer. But as Raven watched humans and alien beginning to interact with cautious curiosity, she knew they'd taken the first steps towards something remarkable. Sacrifice and salvation. The relative calm in Research Bay 4 was shattered by a sudden, piercing alarm. Commander Harrison's voice cut through the chaos. All personnel, we have a critical situation. The ancient facility's power signature is building exponentially. Impact with the station predicted in 15 minutes. Raven rushed to the monitoring station, Theron close behind. The readings were clear. The machine they'd escaped wasn't just active. It was overloading, channeling enough energy to tear the small moon apart. This is my fault, Theron said, their crystalline form trembling. The machine, it's programmed to eliminate all evidence if its containment protocols fail. By freeing me, we've triggered its final failsafe. Dr. Volkov's fingers flew across his console. The energy buildup will create a shockwave powerful enough to destroy not just the moon, but potentially the station as well. We need to evacuate immediately. No, Raven and Theron spoke simultaneously. They exchanged a quick glance, understanding passing between them. The machine can be stopped, Theron continued, but it requires direct interaction with its core systems. Someone must return to the facility. Commander Harrison's voice crackled over the comm. Absolutely not. The risk is too high. All personnel are ordered to begin immediate evacuation procedures. Raven stepped forward. Commander, with respect, if that facility explodes, it won't just be Outpost 7 at risk. The shockwave could destabilize this entire sector. We have to try. A heavy silence fell over the comm channel. Finally, Harrison spoke. You have 12 minutes, Lieutenant. Make them count. Raven turned to Theron, but the alien was already moving toward the maintenance pod. I'm going with you, they said, their tone leaving no room for argument. The machine's systems will respond better to my energy signature. Your condition, Raven started to protest, has stabilized enough for this. Theron finished. Besides, you'll need my knowledge of the Ancients' technology. They boarded the pod together, launching toward the moon's surface as the station began its evacuation procedures. The descent was faster this time, more desperate. Through the viewport, they could see energy discharges already beginning to crack the moon's surface. The machine's core, Theron explained as they approached, it operates on principles of quantum harmony. To shut it down safely, we'll need to match its resonance frequency perfectly while reversing the energy flow. Like creating an anti-wave, Raven nodded, understanding. But the power required, it would need an enormous energy source. Theron's crystalline skin pulsed slightly. Yes, it would. Raven's eyes widened as she realized what Theron was suggesting. No, there has to be another way. My people can survive complete energy transfer, Theron said softly, though we are never quite the same afterward. But your life, your station, your sector, they're worth the sacrifice. The pod landed roughly near the facility's entrance. Inside, the chamber was transformed. Energy coursed through every conduit, the ancient machinery screaming with power it was never meant to contain. The central core, where Theron had been trapped, now blazed like a miniature sun. They fought their way to the control console, Raven's suit sensors warning of dangerous radiation levels. The symbols on the panels moved faster now, almost blur. The shutdown sequence, Raven shouted over the machine's roar. "Walk me through it." But Theron was already moving toward the core, their crystalline form beginning to glow brighter. "There's no time to explain. But I can show you." Before Raven could stop them, Theron stepped into the energy field. Instead of being trapped this time, they seemed to merge with it. Their form expanded, becoming pure light. "Theron, don't." Raven reached for them, but the energy field pushed her back. "Watch," Theron's voice echoed, now seeming to come from everywhere at once. "Learn. Remember." Through their connection with the machine, Theron began to demonstrate the shutdown sequence. Their energy interacted with the ancient systems, showing Raven how each pattern connected, how the harmonies flowed together. It was beautiful and heartbreaking, a dance of light and mathematics that was slowly consuming them. Raven's fingers flew across the controls, following Theron's lead, matching each sequence perfectly. The machine's power began to stabilize, its deadly buildup slowly reversing. But Theron's form was becoming less distinct, dissolving into pure energy. "Please," Raven begged, "there has to be a way to save you too." "You already did." Theron's voice came faintly. "You showed me that different species can trust each other, help each other. That knowledge, it's worth any price." The machine's roar diminished to a hum as its power levels dropped to safe levels. The core's blinding light faded, leaving only a soft, steady glow. And in its center, where Theron had been, there was only a small crystalline shard, pulsing faintly with inner light. Raven approached slowly, tears streaming down her face inside her helmet. She carefully collected the shard, feeling a slight warmth through her suit's gloves. "Lieutenant Walsh." Harrison's voice came through her comm. "The energy signatures are stabilizing. What's your status?" The ancient chamber was quiet now, its machinery dormant but not dead. As Raven made her way back to the pod, she felt the weight of both tragedy and hope. Theron had sacrificed their current form to save countless lives, but they weren't gone, just transformed. And in that transformation lay the possibility of something new, a deeper understanding between their species, built on sacrifice and trust. The shard pulsed steadily in her hand, its rhythm matching her heartbeat. Somehow she knew this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. Theron's sacrifice would lead to changes neither of their species could have imagined. As she piloted the pod back to Outpost 7, the stars seemed to shine with new meaning. They were no longer just distant lights marking humanity's frontier, but bridges between species, waiting to be crossed. Beyond the stars. 3 months after the events at Outpost 7, Raven stood in the observation dome of the Crystalline Consensus's primary restoration facility. The massive space station orbited a binary star system, its crystalline architecture capturing and refracting the dual sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. The small shard that had once been Theron floated in a restoration chamber before her, suspended in a field of pure energy. Around it, several crystalline scientists worked tirelessly, their own bodies shimmering as they channeled energy into the regeneration process. "The restoration progresses well," said Luminara, the lead scientist who had become Raven's primary contact. Unlike Theron's once translucent form, Luminara's crystalline body was a deep azure, marking her as an elder of their species. "Your friend's consciousness remains strong. They dream of stars and ancient machines, and of a human who refused to abandon them." Raven pressed her hand against the chamber's outer shell, watching the shard pulse with a familiar rhythm. Over the past months, she'd learned much about the crystalline people. Their ability to survive complete energy transfer wasn't just a survival mechanism. It was a fundamental part of their life cycle. Through transformation and restoration, they gained new perspectives, new understanding. The human delegation has arrived, Luminara announced softly. Are you prepared? Raven nodded, straightening her dress uniform. Since the incident, she'd been promoted to lieutenant commander and appointed as humanity's first official liaison to the Crystalline Consensus. Today would mark the formal signing of the Alliance Treaty, a direct result of her and Theron's shared ordeal. The delegation chamber was filled with representatives from both species. Humans in formal attire stood alongside crystallines of various hues, all gathered to witness this historic moment. Commander Harrison, now Admiral Harrison, caught her eye and nodded approvingly. As Raven took her place at the podium, she felt the weight of the moment. Her prepared speech lay before her, but as she looked out at the assembled faces, human and crystalline alike, she decided to speak from the heart instead. 3 months ago, I was a maintenance engineer who thought I understood the meaning of duty, she began. Then I met someone who taught me that true duty transcends species, transcends our preconceptions of life itself. Theron's sacrifice showed us that the greatest achievements come not from technology or power, but from the willingness to risk everything for another. The crystalline delegates pulsed with approval, their forms shimmering in harmony. The humans leaned forward, captivated. This treaty represents more than just an alliance between our peoples, Raven continued. It represents a promise to see beyond our differences, to reach across the void not with weapons or suspicion, but with trust and compassion. Together, we can explore the mysteries left behind by the ancients. Together, we can build bridges across the stars themselves. As she spoke the final words, a sudden murmur ran through the crystalline delegates. Raven turned to see the restoration chamber's monitors lighting up with activity. Within the energy field, the shard that was Theron had begun to grow, expanding into a familiar form. The ceremony forgotten, Raven rushed to the chamber. Through the transparent walls, she watched in amazement as Theron's consciousness reintegrated with their newly formed body. Their crystalline form was different now, deeper, more complex, with patterns that seemed to hold echoes of the ancient machine's quantum harmonies. Theron's eyes opened, meeting Raven's gaze through the chamber wall. A smile passed between them, bridging the gap of species and experience. The restoration was already near completion, Luminara explained, her tone suggesting this timing was no coincidence. Your friend wished to wait for this moment. They believed it would serve as a powerful symbol. The chamber opened with a soft hiss, and Theron stepped out. Their new form moved with a fluid grace, catching and refracting light in complex patterns. When they spoke, their voice carried the same warmth Raven remembered, but with new depths of understanding. Your words honor us both, they said, addressing not just Raven but the entire assembly. What we discovered in that ancient chamber was more valuable than any technology. We found that the true measure of advancement lies not in our achievements, but in our capacity to help others. The treaty signing resumed, but now with an added layer of meaning. Each delegate, human and crystalline, felt the weight of witnessing not just a political alliance, but a testament to the power of trust and sacrifice. Later, as the binary sun set, Raven and Theron stood together in the observation dome. The stars stretched out before them, infinite possibilities waiting to be explored. What will you do now? Raven asked, studying her friend's new form. Theron's surface rippled with thoughtful patterns. My experience has given me unique insights into both the ancients' technology and human nature. The consensus has asked me to lead a joint research team. We'll study other ancient sites, but with a new perspective, one that values cooperation over mere discovery. They'll need a human liaison, Raven suggested, trying to keep her tone casual. Theron's form brightened with amusement. I believe I know someone qualified, someone who's proven they understand the importance of building bridges. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. The universe had changed since their first meeting in that ancient chamber. New possibilities had opened up, new connections formed between species that once thought themselves too different to understand each other. You know, Raven said finally, when I first found you in that machine, I never imagined it would lead to all this. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson the ancients left us, Theron replied. The most profound discoveries come not from seeking knowledge itself, but from being willing to help others find their way through the darkness. As if in response to their words, the binary stars cast their light across the station's crystalline surface, creating a symphony of color and shadow. It was a reminder that the universe held endless wonders, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to reach across the void, to trust, to help, to grow. Together, human and crystalline watched the stars, no longer separated by the vast distances between their worlds, but united by the bridges they had built, bridges of understanding, sacrifice, and hope that would span the galaxy itself. The end.